Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought I'd do a follow-up video when it comes to the one from yesterday, mainly because there was a ton of actually really cool comments and a lot of decent reading that I did yesterday, and a lot of points which were pointed out and a lot of things which were discussed, and I thought I would cover some of them in this video just to give you a little bit better of an idea of where I'm coming from when it comes to a lot of the beliefs and ideas that I personally hold. Another thing as well is I think the response to the video shows a lot of what I was talking about. The idea that the community opinion as a whole is not exactly one way or the other. It is divided, which is something which you would definitely see when it comes to these things, because of the fact that the community is so broad in general, and why trying to sum up, let's call them community opinions, in a small little idea between a few little bullet points is pretty much impossible to do. So I would like to thank you for your comments on that video. It was nice reading through a lot of them yesterday. We did it on stream while streaming some Enlisted. There are drops for Enlisted going on right now, and also there will be drops today in War Thunder on the Esports Ready channels. So make sure to get involved in them, make sure to get some cool stuff, and get some stuff for free. Anyway, let's go through some of the comments and criticisms that some of you guys had yesterday. The first thing that was brought up by a few individuals was the fact that I was strawmanning a bunch of other individuals' points, therefore I wasn't, representing them correctly when it comes to the ideas. Now, for me, when it comes to the idea that I was strawmanning people, pretty much everything that I brought up in the video yesterday was either ideas that I've heard through different parts of social media when it comes to War Thunder, whether it's posts on Reddit, whether it's comments on Twitter, whether it is comments on their forum. I try and keep involved in pretty much every part of War Thunder's social media so I can see what individuals are saying, and everything that was talked about yesterday was represented in some way from those ideas. If you believe that I was strawmanning some points, examples would be great, and then I can provide counterexamples to people saying exactly what I was countering. The next one is, I must be a Gaijin shill, they must pay me to say these things, all of that wonderful stuff. No, that's not true. When it comes to being paid by Gaijin, I've never been paid by Gaijin. The most that they do, when it comes to supporting me and the work that I do, they have, I can do monthly requests when it comes to my account, so I can request vehicles, I can request GE, I can request premiums. Basically, per month I can request, I believe it's up to 50,000 GE, and also, no sorry, it's 25,000 GE per month, and then 50,000 GE per major update. Now I do request these things, and then if you've ever watched a stream, I don't use them. They kind of sit on my account. So I have over 300,000 GE right now, and there are two things that I purchase with that. I purchase premium account when it's 50% off. So I get it every year when it's 50% off, and then I purchase the 200 GE decal from the authentic decals so I can keep them and show them to people in the future. The reason why I've been hoarding GE is not as a flex or anything like that. It is literally because sometimes when it comes to dev servers, the box that content creators get, which opens up everything from the dev server, sometimes fails, and it means that we're left in unfortunate situations where we can't get access to everything. While having a pool of GE, that means that I can still bring you the content which you guys want to have a look at, and I also want to test on the dev server. This actually happened last dev server. What happened to my account is it actually got reset to level 1, weirdly enough, meaning that I had to research through all of the tech trees using GE to be able to get to the new vehicles. It was an absolute pain. It took me 4 hours of basic clicking just to get to those vehicles. And it showed exactly why I do what I do when it comes to GE. I have never used GE to research anything on vehicles or vehicles themselves or modifications or anything like that. I grind and spade vehicles. I fully modify them because that's the enjoyment I get in War Thunder. If you want examples of this, I do it every day on Twitch if I'm not playing enlisted. So, you can just see it there. It's as simple as that. There's also an issue that individuals have brought up, the idea that I don't have the average player experience, so I can't talk about the average player. That is very true. Now, if you could point me to who is an average player or who is the average player, that would be great. I've talked about this in the past, kind of the fallacy of the average player, because you can pretty much look at anybody who is giving out opinions on the game and just claim that they're not the average player, therefore they should not be listened to, and then when asked for an example of an average player, you can give a example which makes no sense or can be picked apart, or you can't give an example because it's impossible to know what an average player looks like when it comes to War Thunder. You can have a look at average stats or average statistics. You can do all of these things and try and work out who is close enough to them, and then you'll find out that even then, when you break down into that small sample size, you'll still have a ton of people who meet that criteria who also have differing opinions on how the game goes. So yeah, it's not exactly as easy as that. But yeah, the fact is, I'm not the average player. I don't think I am. I probably play a lot more than average compared to individuals. I don't really use premium vehicles as well. That's another thing. I always have premium account as well. I do all of the events, and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm probably not the average player, but I'm also not looking to represent the average player. I'm looking to represent myself. I am representing my own opinion as part of this community. I am putting my opinion into the mix. And if you disagree with these opinions, that is good. It shows that you can have differing opinions in this overall community, and therefore it shows that once again that not everyone is united on the opinions that they have on how to either alter or change the game or modify it into the future. So yeah. The other thing is premium accounts. Now, a lot of people brought this up, about premium accounts, and generally, should we see it as something which should be a given? Because obviously it does have a quite large effect on your play of the game, how much SL you get, how much research you get, and everything like that. Now, my point of view when it comes to premium accounts is it should be seen as standard. Now, I understand this is a controversial opinion for a lot of people, but also at the same time, let's say you're a person who's played War Thunder for a few years, or maybe you've just started playing War Thunder. The fact is, premium account goes on sale about 3 times a year, and it goes on sale for 50% off for a year. This equates to around about $35 to $40 a year, and I think if you are playing War Thunder a lot, you enjoy the game quite a lot, you are going through and playing a ton of different vehicles and having fun, or want to get to those higher echelons, I don't think $35 to $40 a year is really that much. That's equivalent to about $3 or $4 a month, even less than that, a lot less than the majority of subscriptions that are out there. That is a third of a Netflix subscription, just to give you an example of that, at least in my area. And I see it as something that should be standard for players who enjoy the game, because it's really not a huge cost. And I understand that some people may believe or is a big cost for them. I get that, but from my point of view, I don't think it is. For me, $40 is the equivalent of 2 hours of work. And yes, I do have a full-time job on top of all of this. I don't do this for my income. I am supported by my full-time job that I do while also doing all of this stuff. So it's not a case of saving my own ass, or, it's not a case of, I'm trying to shill the best I can so I can get the most money to survive. No, I come from a point of view where if I didn't make any War Thunder videos, I didn't stream or anything like that, I would still live happily, I would still have income. This is very much a hobby for me. This is something that I've enjoyed a lot and will continue to do, but it's not something which I am dependent on. So those arguments also go out the window. The next one is the idea that that I don't represent community beliefs. You are completely correct. Yes, you are completely correct. I don't want to represent the community beliefs, because whoever says that they represent community beliefs is a charlatan pushing their own agenda. It is impossible to represent community beliefs. If you have been looking at social media, or if you look at in-game chats, or if you even just talk to, your mates when it comes to the game, you'll understand that a lot of them have differing beliefs on different vehicles and different ideas. So the only people that I represent when it comes to my beliefs is me, myself, and I. I represent my own beliefs, and that is it. I will never be used by people who believe that I am a talking head for them. I only represent myself. That is it. Okay? It's as simple as that. And anybody who is trying to represent groups of people when it comes to the community and tries to be a talking head or talking point, no. I don't vibe with that. I don't believe they're being honest. The majority of the time it is done for power and position from the individuals I've talked about, whether it is for a player council or whether it is for some kind of setup. It always goes downhill because it doesn't actually turn into what you believe it should be, which is a way to represent community beliefs, because you can't do that because they're so varied. So instead, what it becomes is an agenda pushing set of nonsense, which is what we've seen over and over and over again when it comes to whenever these ideas have been tried. The fact is, the community itself is made up of a ton of different people from a ton of different backgrounds, a ton of different ages and beliefs and all of these different things. And you know how you can tell this? Just in a very simple, small way. Just have a look at the reaction to the video yesterday. You have a ton of different opinions, some agreeing with what is said, some are disagreeing with what is said, some agreeing with parts of it, others disagreeing with others, and it is a great look at how this all works. It's impossible to represent all of those because of the fact that a lot of them are contradictory points. So it's impossible to do it, right? Simple as that. Another thing that was brought up was repair costs, once again, because that is always the hot button topic. I hope you've all, at this point, turned off your auto repair. Turn it off, even if you don't understand why to turn it off. Just turn it off. It'll save you SL. Even if it saves you crumbs, it is still saving you SL. Do it. And then, when it comes to repair costs in general, there's a lot of posts saying repair costs should be abolished or a bad way to balance the game. Now, what is kind of interesting about this, so Gaijin have actually said publicly a few times, or members of Gaijin, people who actually work for Gaijin, that they've said that they don't use repair costs to balance the game. Now, I don't actually believe that statement. I think that is, I think what they're doing is they're misrepresenting the word balance, or maybe balance means something different to them, because for me, repair cost is a soft balance measure. It is designed if you have two vehicles which are of similar value, so therefore they're at the same BR, there is a reason to choose one of them over the other, and that would be their repair cost or the rewards that are attached to it. So for me, when I look at those statements, I find them very odd, and I actually disagree with them. That person who's supposed to be a gaijin shill disagreeing with stuff that people at gaijin say. It's weird, isn't it? Anyway, so I personally think it's a soft balance measure. And the thing is, let's say you get rid of that soft balance measure, which is the repair cost itself, then what do you do? Or let's say you average it out, so every vehicle has a 5k repair cost. Then how do you incentivize people for playing different vehicles which are at the same BR, when you actually have a dominant one at that BR? Why would people not just use those vehicles instead? What is the reason, for using those other vehicles? There has to be some kind of incentive. And you can say, well, they could incentivize rewards. That's true. They could keep increasing the RP modifiers and therefore get past them quicker. That's a way to do it. They already do that though, so that's already done in the game. So we need a new thing. Well, they could increase the cell modifiers. Well, what's the point? You've smashed the repair costs, or a cell isn't an issue anymore. So yeah, there's a thing. Once you take out a balancing mechanic out of the game, you need to think about adding another one in. Otherwise, what you're going to create is imbalances between vehicles. So that is a discussion that would need to be had after the idea of abolishment of repair cost. The other issue, when it comes to SL and Silver Lions and negative incentives, I've talked about this before. Negative incentives are a very true thing. The reason why you work is because you don't want to be homeless, right? So maybe not homeless, but maybe you want to provide for your family, or maybe you want to, do something with the money. That can be easily an incentive, or seen as a negative incentive for some people where they don't enjoy their job. But then, they can strive to find a better job. But at the same time, it's generally best to have a job to be able to try and find a job. People take you more seriously. So sometimes you have to do things you don't like to be able to get to the position that you want to do. I've personally done that in my life quite a lot of times. So the fact is, there's, your negative incentive idea. And when it comes to Silver Lions and the idea of negative incentives, if you have a repair cost there, the incentive is for you to do well, so you can pay for the repair cost. Therefore, you'll gain more experience in the game. Therefore, you'll start thinking about how you're playing in the game instead of running around with your head cut off. And if you are able to do that effectively, then you get rewarded for it. But if you don't do it effectively, then you get punished for it in the form of the repair cost. And then if you don't learn, and you're not trying to improve your game and all of that stuff in War Thunder, then you are going to get punished. And I think generally that's not a bad thing. A lot of games have this mechanic. A lot of games work very well with this mechanic, and it's a standard, well, maybe not a standard across the board, because there are games like Enlisted out there which have no negative incentives in them. So yeah, but there is a lot of games with this idea, and I generally think it's an okay one. To try and push people to strive to be better at a game, I think is fine. It's not a huge issue, especially when there are ways around it for people who want to do it. The other great thing about negative incentives is it gets rid of botting. So it gets rid of people writing programs or writing scripts or whatever you want to call them to play the game for them, so they can artificially grind 24/7 in the game with bots playing. If you have some kind of negative incentive, that bot who is brain dead, which is something we actually saw in World of Tanks quite a few years ago, where there was a lot of bots running around, what it does is it gets rid of those things, because it means that they can't run forever. They will eventually run out of SL, because they'll just be driving into the middle of the map, getting shot over and over and over again, and eventually dying, meaning that they don't gain anything. It means that people who create bots, if there are any in War Thunder, have to be a little bit more clever instead of just hold W. So for me, this is a big positive, because what normally kills free-to-play games is bot farming. It's not even just free-to-play games. World of Warcraft had a huge issue with it, and I probably still does. I haven't actually checked it recently, with bot farms, where people would set up multiple accounts just to go into certain areas, wander around them, and be able to farm, you know, the items. If War Thunder ever got to that point, it would become a very negative experience to play, and I'm glad we have a negative incentive in place to be able to stop it. The next one was about, you know, War Thunder community being toxic, and you know, it's one of the most toxic communities that people have seen. I don't think so. I actually disagree with this. You know, I've met a ton of awesome people in the War Thunder community at large, in all different areas, you know, on the Reddit, the forums, Discord, you know, Twitch, YouTube, even in-game. I've met some great people. Some of my great friends through the internet I've found through War Thunder, and I've known them for, you know, 7 years at this point, and they're wonderful people. I would definitely say I've had way more positive experiences in War Thunder than negative ones. The negative ones are very small compared to the positive ones that I've had over the last years. I've also seen communities be a lot worse than War Thunder's when it comes to negativity and also criticism. I am a big fan of Dota 2. I've enjoyed it for many years, played it on and off in the last few years, but I played it quite seriously, basically in like 2017, 2018, and that is what we would class as a much more aggressive community compared to War Thunder. It has voice comms in it, you know, in the game itself. If you check out, you know, the Reddit, or if you check out the forums, there is a lot of hyper-aggressive people, to the point where they have a system in the game where if you get, you know, if you get reported for bad behavior enough, they actually put you in your own queue, which is basically a toxic queue. So you get to play with other people who have been put in there for, you know, being the dredges of the game. So yeah, War Thunder doesn't have that. You know, every so often people get chat banned, but that's about it. I would generally say the War Thunder community at large is actually a really good one. And I'm not, you know, trying to butter cheeks or anything. I really do genuinely believe that. This community in general seems a little bit older and a bit more mature than a lot that I've dealt with, and I've just met a ton of awesome people. It's just as simple as that. And then the last major point, you don't criticize Gaijin or War Thunder, therefore, you know, you only speak positively about the game. I mean, this is untrue. This also must be an opinion from individuals who, you know, haven't watched me for either the last year or two, and that's fine. You know, there's always new people to the channel. Always nice to see. Always nice to see new people. So I thought I'd rattle off some critiques that I have for War Thunder, just so you know that I do critique the game and have done for many years. So the first one is the Build-A-Bear events. If you don't know what the Build-A-Bear events are, Operation Shipyard is one of them. That would be seen as that. Basically the crafting events. I call them Build-A-Bear events because that's what it reminds me of. The fact is, I think it is disgusting that Gaijin does not allow individuals to be able to play the game and get all of the vehicles from the events. The fact that they made the statement 2 years ago now, I believe, that these events are designed for the most dedicated of players to be able to get everything. The most dedicated seems to be the ones who want to pay money, because there is no other way of being able to get these vehicles other than that. So for me, that is a huge issue when it comes to War Thunder, the fact that you have events which are tailor-made, so the individual who's playing it cannot get all of the things that are available. I really am disgusted by that, and I hope at some point in the future it changes. I also disagree with the addition of larger ships. I know a lot of people who like larger ships, but for me, every time that we get larger ships added to the game, it just means that coastal just gets hit harder, the part of the game that I personally enjoy. It just means that it's harder to play, and also you can see how they've made a ton of different changes to the game to be able to try and fit these larger ships in, and all of them have been, in my opinion, negative. The large circle maps that you see, they are because of larger ships. The change in many of the mechanics in the game, such as torpedoes recently, this is because you have slow lumbering ships which cannot get out of the way of torpedoes in arcade. You also have damage model changes to destroyers recently, which have made them incredibly tanky, meaning that getting damage in them is so much harder than before. The addition of larger ships is boring, it is not interesting, and it is tiresome to me as an addition. Then you have stuff like ATGM vehicles having no real place in the game. I made a video recently talking about the worst vehicles in War Thunder, and it is the ATGM launchers. Some of them do have a place, the IT-1 being able to fire on the move and having a low profile. A lot of the IFVs are obviously really good. What I mean is the basic tow or basic ATGM vehicles, the Type 60 ATM, the M113A1 tow, machines like this which only have an ATGM. The M113A1s and the CM25 are the main ones that come to mind. They have no real place in the game right now. I would personally say they should give them some new mechanics, give them scouting. They gave the Hellcat scouting, they made it a light tank, but something like the M113, nah, can't do that. But yeah, give them some kind of mechanics to make them useful, because right now they are quite useless, which is why you hardly ever see them in the game. The limit on Battle Pass challenges, so the fact that they reduced the amount of time you can do the Battle Pass challenges in, I don't really like this. I think a Battle Pass challenge should be for the duration of the Battle Pass. That makes sense to me. I don't like the timed challenges. It just means that people have less time to be able to do them in, even if you have made the challenges in general easier, and the ones that you unlock through the Battle Pass, you still have the whole Battle Pass to do. I think these seasonal challenges should be seasonal, because that makes sense in my head. I've constantly critiqued what I see as the largest issue in War Thunder, which is the stock to spaded experience, and I've talked about many times how I would make it easier. Recently we did get a big plus in this regard, the fact that now a lot of vehicles in aviation get stock missiles. This is a big positive. Even if the missiles aren't great, I do still think this is much better than what we had before, which was no missiles, so this is really good. The fact that a lot of top tier tanks use Heat FS as their stock round is a slap in the face. It is a ridiculous idea. The fact is this should be changed back to what it was before, and then also made easier for the tanks which did have stock Heat FS. For me personally, the way I would do the system for ammunition at high ranks, I would give everybody the ability to bring a maximum of 5 rounds of a specific type of ammunition, and then if you unlock the modification for that ammunition, you can bring as many as you want. So even in the stock configuration, you would have some APFS DS rounds, you would have 5 of them to be exact. This is not enough, to carry a game, but this is enough to be able to kill stuff, and also reduces the grind when it comes to the stock to spaded experience. Also, stock NVDs just as a basic one, especially since night battles are quite prevalent at higher echelons. Better stock bomb loads and stock rocket loads, which would be quite nice for vehicles. Stock smoke grenades as well. All of these things, this would be nice. But yeah, the major issue in War Thunder is the stock two-spaded scenario. Simple as that. And also stuff like issues that consoles have. I made a video a while back looking at issues that Xbox has as a platform when it comes to War Thunder. And luckily a lot of those things have been fixed, actually, over the last year or so. But they still had a ton of problems at the time. And they still have issues today. And I actually went to the largest Xbox Discord community. They reached out to me and said if I wanted to chat about stuff, which was pretty cool. And they're called the War Thunder HQ, or War Thunder HQ. I chatted to the guys over there about it, the guys who run it, because they run the largest group for War Thunder on Xbox as well. And I was like, hey, I think it would be really cool to do something like this. We'll sit down, I'll write down all of the issues you guys bring up. I'll put them in a video. We'll see what we can do. And that's what we did. So, yeah, I talk about that stuff as well, because I think that's very important. Console players do get forgotten about a lot. Especially when it comes to YouTube stuff, especially when it comes to sales and things like that. So I do try and represent, what they tell me about stuff as much as I can, even though I don't have their experiences, and I do take it into account when it comes to, the stuff that I make. So that's also something that I try and do when it comes to War Thunder and stuff that I talk about. So yeah. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video and it's given you some things to think about, which is always fun. And I'm going to be streaming all day today Enlisted, so if I don't read your comments until later, don't worry about it. Make sure to make your opinions heard. I do enjoy reading them. And as always, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank BRFC, Swollen Ostrich, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Conte Baraka, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Lafouche, Barine, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.